Hello, everyone. I'm Hesham Mohammed. Welcome to our session about paraphrasing and summarizing. Now, let's start. The session is based on a unit from academic writing book, Academic Writing for International Students of Business. Now, let's start. The first question that we need to ask is, why are summarizing and paraphrasing important in academic writing? The key word here is that we need to avoid plagiarism. Summarizing and paraphrasing are normally used together in academic writing. Summarizing, number one, allows the writer to condense lengthy sources into concise forms. I mean, now we have long texts and we need to shorten them. We need to make them shorter. On the other hand, paraphrasing means changing the wording of a text so that it is significantly different from the original source, of course, without changing the meaning. Now I get some information from a certain source. In case I copy it as it is, this will lead to plagiarism. So I need to do two things. I need to summarize it to make it shorter, to make it more concise, and to write the same information in other words, which is paraphrasing. Both are needed to avoid the risk of plagiarism. As we said, this unit actually practices them both separately and jointly. Now let's ask a good question. What makes a good summary? There are a lot of things that will make your summary a good one, but let's sum them up in three aspects. Number one, a good summary is the selection of the most important aspects. So I need to understand well what the most important part of our text is, then include. This is the first important thing, which means that I have to exclude the irrelevant information or the unnecessary information. Number two, there must be clear description of what is written. And number three, which is the most important here, is accuracy. I need to do it in the right way, to say it in the right way, to be more specific, to deliver the message. Individually now, and for 2 minutes, I would like each one of you to write a summary of one of the topics below in no more than 20 words. Number one, a company you have worked for, or a town or city you know well, or a product that you have recently bought. Let's ask this question now. What makes a good summary? Stages of summarizing a text, let's say. Summarizing is a flexible tool. It all depends on your need. Generally, a summary focuses on the main ideas and excludes examples or supporting information, which means that I focus on the main point, the main ideas. And in case we have like examples, supporting information, whatever, we have to exclude that, put this aside. In every case, the same basic steps need to be followed in order to meet the criteria discussed in section 1 on page 40. And you are going to study the stages of summary writing. These are the stages of summary writing. Of course, they have been mixed up. So what you are going to do is that you'll be working in groups and you are going to put them in the correct order, and from 1 to 5. So which one do you think comes number 1? Yes, that's right. You need to read the original text carefully and check any new or difficult vocabulary. Number 2, we need to mark the key points by underlining or highlighting. You need to read and underline and say, this is important, this is not that important, this is an example that can be excluded, and so on. Make notes of the key points, and then you can paraphrase where possible. After that, I look at my notes and then I start writing a summary of that. And of course, I'm going to reorganize the structure if needed, of course. Then after that, we need to check the summary to ensure that, number 1, it is accurate, it is to the point, and then nothing important has been changed or lost, because sometimes while writing a summary of something, I may change the meaning of something, change the message, whatever, or I lose an essential part of my text. Now we have practice number 1. You've got here like a text, and then the text is followed by 3 summaries of the same text, as you see, A, B, and C. So what you're going to do is that you are going to read this text, and then you are going to read after that the 3 summaries that you have, A, B, and C. Writing the summary of the text, as we said, we've got to underline the most, or the keywords, the most important words, and the most important information, exclude examples and information that's not necessary. And then we start writing notes, as you said, and then after that you write our own summary. If we follow these steps, let's say in our minds now, because we have like three summaries of the same text, you'll find that C actually is the best one. Fine. C is the best summary of the 3. Why? You notice here that it talked about digital cameras at first as an example of disruptive technology. Instead of putting it in a very long sentence or 2 sentences, this was put like in half a sentence, that it was completed after that with very essential information that this was done by the 2 researchers of Harvard Business School, and then the year after that, 1995, and how that initially wins enough market share to survive and develop. This is something. And then after that, talking about the first cameras that were produced and the advantages, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, what the development of that. In the next 2 points, you'll find that there is something missing, or like a slight change of information after that. So C comes number 1. B, it could be with like some parts that are missing, and like that accurate information about accurate summary of our text. Step number 2. This is an idea that will help us. This was discussed in the previous section, which is unit 1.5, finding key points and then note making. Now we are supposed to complete the notes of the key points below. You've got the key points here, and you are going to, you've got like 3 minutes. Now, just you'll write like very few words to complete every sentence. We have another exercise here, which is that the notes that we have written a moment ago, we are going to write to make our final summary. You are going to join the notes together and expand them to make, of course, a final summary in the form of a paragraph, of course. Check that the meaning is clear and no important points have been left out. We need to do that after we finish. You need to read our task. Then, of course, the suitable title, find the suitable title for that. Okay. This is like a model of a summary, let's say. If you notice here, this summary is about 35% of the original length, but it could be summarized further. Still, we can make a summary of the summary. And in this case, I will not refer to the original text. I'm going to refer to this text and try to sum it up. Another exercise, summarize the following text in about 50 words, and start checking like the model answer for that. We come now to another point, which is the idea of paraphrasing. As you see it, paraphrasing and summarizing are normally used together in essay writing. But while summarizing aims to reduce the information to a suitable length, paraphrasing attempts or tries to restate the relevant information, restate the information, rephrase, write the information in other words. That's the point. If you look at the example that we have here, there has been much debate about the reasons for the Industrial Revolution happening in 18th century Britain rather than in France or Germany. If you look at the information that we have here first, and if you want to say it in other words, we see that we can change the word debate, okay? And we cannot change some other pieces of information. For example, there has been much debate about the reasons for the Industrial Revolution. happening in 18th century Britain. So look at this, why the Industrial Revolution occurred. Instead of saying happened or happening, I said occurred. I changed the word, I changed the structure. And instead of saying in 18th century Britain, I said in the UK in the 18th century. 18th century is the same. Although I have a point here to say that there is actually a difference between Britain and the UK, but whatever, let's continue. Instead of on the continent, the word continent was mentioned here, but it is like general information, general knowledge. I mean, we know very well that France, Germany, and Britain are in the same continent. Has been the subject of considerable discussion. Instead of saying like debate, we said considerable discussion. We can say that the matter has been controversial. There was sort of argument. You got that. Now let's ask ourselves a very important question. What makes an effective paraphrase? Note that an effective paraphrase usually, number one, has a different structure to the original. And this is really important. That's why we need to focus on the idea of structure very well. It has mainly different vocabulary. Of course, I cannot paraphrase without using different vocabulary because I'm restating, I'm rephrasing, I'm using other words. Of course, I need to retain the meaning or the same meaning. Okay, and this is really important because the meaning, if the meaning changed, so this is not paraphrasing. And of course, it keeps some phrases from the original that are in common use. What am I going to say about the Industrial Revolution, about the 18th century? This will not change, of course. Now we have an exercise. You're going to read the text below and then evaluate the 3 paraphrases. One is the best, and of course, you've got to give reasons for that. You've got a text here. Fine, this text is paraphrased like 3 times, and you are going to decide which of them is the best. The best comes number 1, the second, the third, and then of course you've got to give reasons with only a few words changed and extra inaccurate extra information and inaccurate information added. Okay, if Britain was the only country, this was not mentioned at all. Okay, this is for the number C. Okay, it gave like a lot of relevant information and wrong ones too. So this is a very poor paraphrase. The second one is fine, it could be, but it lacks, there is lack of precision. It was not precise as it's here at that time, what time exactly. And unsuitable register when they use the word, when the word the buses is written, which is not like a word that's not correct. We come to the best one, which is a number B. So B is the best, with all main points included and a significantly different structure. There is a change of structure, everything has been covered and different words for phrasing and so on. How are we going to paraphrase? Let's see these techniques of paraphrasing. Number 1, changing vocabulary by using synonyms. And this is essential. We need to practice English to know more synonyms, more antonyms, more words, more vocabulary, enhance all that. So this will help me a lot. Instead of saying, for example, argues, I can say claims. If instead of saying the 18th century, like I say, I can say the 1700s. Instead of saying wages, I can say labor costs. Economize, I can say saving. You got me here, I use different words. Number 2, I can change word class. I mean, like get some words from the word family. Like, for example, instead of using, and of course, this is essential to know the idea of parts of speech. This is a verb, this is a noun, an adjective, etc. So instead of using explanation as a noun, I can use explain. For example, instead of saying he gave explanation about what happened, I can say he explained what happened, for example. Instead of using mechanical, I can say mechanize as a verb. So as an adjective, use a verb. Instead of saying profitable, I can say profitability, adjective here, and use the noun, for example. As I said a moment ago, if I tell you, for example, this tool enables you to do blah, 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 I can say it will make you able to do it. Okay, he was able to do it. He showed an ability, and so on. A very important point again, which is number C, changing word order. The best explanation for the British location of the Industrial Revolution is found by studying demand factors. A focus on demand factor may help explain the UK origin of the Industrial Revolution. For example, I changed the word order. Note that in practice, all these three techniques are used at the same time. Of course, I wouldn't use one, focus on one, and then skip the others. Of course, I need to use them all together. A very important tip, do not attempt to paraphrase every single word. Okay, some words, for example, have no true synonym. What is the synonym of the word economy? You got me? This is something. And there is another point here that I need to focus on, which is not mentioned actually, which is the idea of what we call lexical gap, because this is like a very common problem that happens with speakers of English who have other languages and mother tongue. The idea that I think in Arabic, for example, and then say it in English, or think that it might be the same in English. The structure of Arabic is not the same structure of English, and so on, and of course other languages too. Okay, you need of course to refer later to academic vocabulary and parts of speech, and these things, this will be covered later. And you are going to read the following text. This is number 1. You have your time, of course, to read the text, and then after that, you are going to find synonyms for the words that are underlined. The next part of the exercise, you are going to change the word class of the underlined words and rewrite the tense using the changes. Okay, yeah, the word class here, as you said, the part of speech, if it's a noun, make it an adjective. It's an adjective, make it change into a verb. Of course, they've got to make the necessary changes too. Then in exercise 3, you're going to change the word order of these sentences, then rewriting the paraphrase so the meaning stays the same. This is another step. After that, you're going to combine the 3 techniques to paraphrase the next paragraph. So steps to do paraphrasing, and and then you come to the final product, which is writing a paraphrase using all the techniques. And as you see here, these are like the answer key to all the parts. For exercise B, change the word class of the underlined words and then rewrite the sentence using the changes. Again, change the word order of these sentences, rewriting the paragraph so the meaning stays the same. Again, this is another step of paraphrasing the model answer. The last exercise, the model answer for the exercise. And that's all for my lesson. I hope you have enjoyed it, and thank you.